Hello, and welcome back to the podcast that must not be named. I am Luke.
I am Melissa over here.
And we are here doing our 5-chap recap. Woo! 16 through 20 are the chapters that we're going to be talking about, and that includes Chapter 16, Professor Trelawney's Prediction, Chapter 17, Cat, Rat, and Dog, Chapter 18, Moody, Wormtail, Padfoot, and Prongs, Chapter 19, The Servant of Lord Voldemort, and Chapter 20, The Dementor's Kiss. Melissa, what just happened on this single calendar day?
What happened was one day. Just a day. It started with exams. Some exams happened, but the interesting exam that happened was Professor Trelawney's exam, which, of course, Harry went last. And while he had a fairly unsuccessful exam, he had a very successful overhearing of a possible real prediction. After the exam, they find out that Buckbeak has lost and he's going to be executed. So the trio sneak out to Hagrid's hut, where they find, dun dun dun, Scabbers alive and maybe not well, but definitely alive. And so they grab him and they run out of Hagrid's as soon as they see Dumbledore and a cacophony of people coming in to do terrible things to animals. Animals were harmed in this section. I apologize. And as they run off under the invisibility cloak, all of a sudden Scabbers runs off. Ron goes chasing out after him, and all of a sudden, bam, attacked by a giant dog who breaks Ron's leg and drags Ron and Scabbers under the Whomping Willow. So Harry and Hermione follow. Turns out, giant dog, not a giant dog. He's actually Sirius Black, escaped convict. Spoiler. After that, Lupin shows up. Lupin, who found them on the Marauders map and ends up not capturing Sirius, but hey, guess what? Being his friend. Because it turns out that Scabbers the rat, not really a rat. It is all about spoilers in this particular section, and the rat is really Peter Pettigrew, the guy that Sirius was supposed to have killed. Turns out, Sirius, dog, rat, person, Lupin, werewolf, Snape, hiding under the invisibility cloak. But because he was being Snape and not very nice, kids attacked him, he passes out, he doesn't pay much attention. We find out that Pettigrew actually was the secret keeper for James and Lily. Pettigrew is the one who reported on them to Voldemort, and then Pettigrew faked his own death. So, Snape and Lupin try to kill Pettigrew. Harry says, no, wait, let's not do that, because my dad doesn't want you guys to become killers. We'll turn him in, he can go to Azkaban. They all head out back under the willow, where, hey, guess what? It's a full moon, which means Lupin turns back into the werewolf. As Lupin runs off as a werewolf, that gives Pettigrew a chance to turn back into the rat and escape. Ron passes out after getting attacked, and Sirius gets hurt by Lupin. All of a sudden, here comes the Dementors. The Dementors attack Sirius. The Dementors start attacking Harry, and as Harry's about to pass out and get his soul sucked by a Dementor, there's a bright, shiny thing clomping on 4 legs that scares off all the Dementors, and with that, Harry passes out.
One of our favorite parts of 5-chap recap episodes. Lorelei's back. What's up?
Hi.
Target audience perspective. So you read these 5 chapters along with us, right?
Yeah.
Any overall thoughts? Like this section? Didn't like this section? Initial feelings?
I like this section because it helped. I don't know. I like it. I just like it.
You like it because you like it. And that's fine. That's why I like this section. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot happening. You get a lot of story along with it too.
It's just a day.
It's just a day. A day in the life. So let's talk about Trelawney's prediction. Did you find that pretty interesting? What's your take on how Harry experienced that? Is it true? Anything you can think of?
I think that Harry was very alarmed that he was just walking away, and then he just hears this weird thing about this guy that's ruined his life. It's not good. He's scared.
What would you do if one of your teachers did that to you in the middle of a test?
I'd freak out. I give her a weird face. What?
That's it. That's a whole freak out.
That is my freak out.
Stop touching the microphone.
Falling off the table.
I've cranked the volume up so you don't. It doesn't have to be
it's falling.
I'm saying you can make it steady.
Done.
So you would freak out if your teacher did that to you when you were leaving social studies or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, like, this guy's a pretty bad guy. Like, people don't want to even talk about him. But, like, she just, like, blurts this thing out about him. I'd kind of be scared.
Mm-hmm. Like, hey, yeah, this most evil person that you've, ever heard of, apparently he's got a buddy it's going to be helping him out tonight. You'd be like, what am I supposed to do with that information?
I think that's above my pay grade.
Right. Do I go to the authorities with this, or
I can't tell my teacher.
Right. No, I think it's definitely a pretty interesting thing. Do you think, one, is it a true prediction? Do you think that's something that's going to happen? Obviously, we know where this section leads to, but do you think that's all going to happen?
I think that it might happen, because I think that.
Wow, that's deep.
I know.
So then we have like all the crazy with Harry and Hermione and Ron and all the things that happen with Buckbeak and then the tree and then the dog.
Yeah.
Then they go in the shack.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that shack?
It's creepy.
Why?
Because people from the village are like saying that they hear screaming, and then you like have to go there to save your friend. And I'd be flipping out. I'd be like, there's these rumors about this place. I'm not safe. I'd just be freaking out.
Do you think that's why it's Gryffindor is going after them?
Yeah, Hufflepuff would just be scared.
I think that's actually like one of my favorite parts in probably the whole book series is when they go through that tunnel and they pop up and they're just looking around and they see the tattered walls and all these things and they're just like, holy cow, I think we're in the Shrieking Shack. Like, to me, that was just like, that is so cool. Like, cause we don't really know where this tunnel is leading, right? We just see that it's this tunnel that we're chasing to save our friend. And then it turns out, hey, it's the Shrieking Shack. Like, that's, like you said, like a quote unquote terrifying place to be. But you get there and it's not really that as bad as what you would have expected. It doesn't seem like it's really a haunted place, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely destroyed, but...
Yeah.
Well, and then we find out where all of the rumors come from.
Where? Is that a pun?
Ha ha ha. Where, with an H and without an H. So where is that?
We were where we were wearing werewolf wear. It's where a werewolf grew up, right? So that's really where all of the Shrieking Shack rumors started, was Lupin growing up there and basically terrorizing the house from the inside. And then they, I don't know, what do you think of that? Or did you not agree with that?
Or you didn't know, like you didn't pick up on that?
I didn't pick up on.
So the Shrieking Shack isn't really haunted?
No.
So, but the townspeople say it's haunted, but really what happens in there that all the noises come from?
Werewolf.
The werewolf, exactly. That's what we were talking about. So what do you think about the werewolf being in there and not ghosts?
I think that the werewolf or Lupin started that rumor, so like no one would get like suspicious about like hearing stuff.
Okay. Do you think that was a good idea to like spread a lie?
Yeah, to like protect him. Because, like, some people might be scared that there's, like, a werewolf at Hogwarts and, like, wouldn't want their kids there.
Okay.
So then Lupin shows up when they're in the shack too, right? And we get through all of them kind of discussing, hey, I really haven't been his friend this whole time. I'm figuring this out right now. And Snape shows up, under the invisibility cloak with the Marauders map, right? I mean, he's... What do you think about Lupin leaving the Marauders map laying out for Snape to find it, unfortunately, and all of the information that Snape has now?
I think that was kind of, like, dumb to, like, leave something that important out. But at the same time, he was really confused and, like, was, like, processing the information. So, like, he was, like, in a hurry, like, what the heck is going on? Kind of.
Were you shocked by Snape's appearance?
A little, but like he had like a good explanation of why he was there. He was like, I'm dropping off this potion. I found this. I saw all you gather here, so I want to see what was happening.
Oh, so Snape had noble and well-intentioned reasons for coming, as in he was trying to be the good guy.
Kind of.
I think that's kind of reasonable. In his head, I think he potentially was trying to do what he thought was the right thing.
Yeah.
So do you think he handled it well?
No.
Why not?
Because, he just he just totally, ruined their conversation.
Oh.
They were, having a good conversation, and then he just barges in and ruins it.
Were you surprised that the kids all attacked him?
Yeah. Well, not really. Because, they had just got this information that, Sirius is a good guy, and Snape is, trying to, get back at him. So, they attack him instead of Sirius.
So then we find out that Ron's rat is not a rat. He's really Peter the person.
Yeah.
Peter the person.
What do you think about the realization that Ron's been living with a rat who's really a person all this time?
I think he's kind of shocked and at the same time weird out.
Reasonably.
Because, he was like, I let you sleep in my bed.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
And, it's this guy that, looks weird and, doesn't,
It's missing a finger.
yeah, has been a rat for, 13 years. It would freak me out. I'm I was your owner. I was an owner to a guy that's older than me.
I feel like one of your teddy bears turning into a human now.
Weird.
Welcome. Those are your nightmares tonight.
Nah.
So then they finally leave the Shrieking Shack and they're walking out in this long, awkward single file line, right? Which was, I think, kind of comical. It was kind of funny how,
Yeah.
Snape's getting his head hit because they're carrying him along, floating him along, right? And so Sirius and Harry have a conversation. Can you tell us about what they talk about?
They talked about how since they're gonna bring in Peter, that Sirius is free, so that Harry can stay with him since Sirius is Harry's godfather.
Mm-hmm. So since Sirius's name is cleared, he should be, totally free to live his life normal, that Harry can go live with Sirius as his godfather, right? And how does Harry take that?
He's very happy that he gets to leave the Dursleys.
Yeah. What would you be excited if you were Harry at that point?
Yeah. I mean, they were very mean to me, so living with a cool godfather that is wizarding would be very exciting instead of just living in the muggle world.
Mm-hmm. So whenever Harry reacts so excited, Sirius is kind of surprised by that, isn't he? Did you pick up on that? What did you think of Sirius's reaction to Harry's excitement?
He's oh, I've been in jail for 13 years. You kind of just met me.
Be reasonable here.
Are you okay?
It's almost like you haven't been raised by normal people.
What's the song? You just met me. This is crazy, but here's my number. So live with me, maybe.
Call me, maybe. Yeah, right. Sirius Ray Jepsen.
Yes.
I've been blamed for killing your parents, and you barely know me. Are you okay?
We're cool, right?
You okay?
I'm good. You good?
No.
Okay. But yeah, so you're cool with living with me, even though I'm the dude who's been in jail. Yeah, that's how bad the Dursleys are.
Mm-hmm.
All right, are you ready to jump into some questions that might be on fire?
Yeah.
Hang on one second. Sorry. What do you need help with?
Hi, Griffin.
Oh, here, listen. There's someone here that wants to talk to you. Who is it?
Hi, Griffin.
You here?
Hello, Griffin.
Hey,
Hi.
Coco.
Coco. No. He's
Hey,
here?
Yes.
It's your cousin, right? Alright, I'm going to go help you in here in a second. If you want to start questions, I'll be back down in a minute, or if you want to wait for me, I'll be back down in a minute.
We'll go through the questions without you.
Okay, that's fine. I'll be quiet on this side.
All right, so question 1. During the course of the exam, do you think anybody really ever sees anything in the crystal ball?
Not really, because a lot of them was scared that they were like, if I tell you anything, like, a curse is gonna come upon me. So I feel like they didn't see anything and she knew that, so she told them that, kind of.
So, follow-up question. Let's assume you don't see anything.
Yeah.
What do you make up? What's your story? Go prepared.
I see a polar bear on the ice, flying a unicorn.
Is the unicorn pink and fluffy?
Yes.
Excellent.
Very pink, very fluffy.
All right, question number 2. Did you know that Lupin was a werewolf before you read this? Like, before you read these chapters, in all of the hints that they gave us all along? Did you figure it out?
I mean, kind of. Like, I knew he was, like, getting sick. So, like, I thought, oh, he had the flu. And then, like, the next time he got sick, I'm like, oh, he got the flu again? Like, what? And then, like, I got suspicious about, like, what's going on. And then I was like, oh, yeah, werewolf. Okay.
So you didn't know he was a werewolf, but you know there was, like, some deal with that guy.
Yeah.
All right, that's good. I didn't catch it.
Mm.
The first time I read this, I did not at all.
Uh-huh.
Yes, you're very smart. I'm so proud of you. I am. Question number 3. Ready? If you could be an animagus, what would you be and why? Like, if you could turn into an animal at will, like Sirius can turn into a dog, what would you turn into and why?
A unicorn.
Another really good answer.
Because why?
Because they're awesome. And if, like, someone finds me, I'd be, like, famous. They'd be like, oh my god, a unicorn. Or, like, if I went to the Muggle world, they'd be like, oh my god, a unicorn. And I'd just, like, be famous, man.
That's a really good answer.
That's another
A lot.
really good answer.
But, like,
I know.
never mind.
It's better than mine. All right. Question 4. Thinking about Sirius.
Yeah.
Would you try to kill the person who had landed you in prison if you knew you were innocent and it was all that guy's fault?
No, because I would try to, like, persuade the people that, like, this guy is, like, the reason I'm here and I'm very innocent. I wouldn't just kill him and then have to be in Azkaban just, like, because I did something wrong. Even though I was innocent for that other thing, I would still be in jail for that.
Yeah. Reason. Good
Yeah.
job with reason.
Like,
And, peaceful solutions.
yeah.
All right. Last question. Ready?
Mhm.
Where did werewolf Lupin go? So at the end of the last chapter that we read, he transformed into a werewolf and just is off.
I think he went to the forest, Forbidden Forest.
What's he doing in the forest?
I don't know. Trying to hide.
Okay.
Like, I feel like Lupin's still in there and, like, is saying, like, I need to hide, but at the same time, like, werewolf instincts come on and stuff. So I feel like over the years that Lupin has been a werewolf, he has kind of taken a little bit of control. I kind of see it as, like, Hulk and Bruce Banner.
Trying to learn to get along together.
Yeah, like in Thor Ragnarok.
Nice.
Like, I thought I had the wheel, but then he, like, had the wheel and I was, like, locked in the trunk.
Hulk, always Hulk.
Yeah.
I can see that. All right. Are you ready for some chapter superlatives?
Sure.
What was your favorite line?
Hermione, Ron said cautiously because she was
Libel.
liable to explode when interrupted these days. That's my favorite line.
Because she's going to explode at any given moment.
Yeah. And I just, like, when I read that line, I feel like when Ron says, like, Hermione, she, like, has, like, those dark eyes, like she hasn't slept in forever, and, like, her hair's crazy, and so she's just like, what? She, like, turns her head.
And Ron's probably like,
Oh.
like, even the word Hermione's probably like, Hermione?
What? I just see her, like, flip.
So it's a really good visual moment for you.
Yeah.
All right. Last question. Ready?
Yeah.
Who was your section MVP?
Lupin, because he, like, took in a lot of information, like, in the middle and end, and, like, processed it and was, like, really calm with it. He was like, yes, I'm a werewolf, but that guy is, like, innocent, and, like, took all that information, but, like, at the same time was, like, protecting of kids, and it's, like, just trying to help them, like, understand this, even though he's still processing it.
I agree. Good pick.
Thank you.
And nice job this section. We appreciate you joining us again. And Are you ready for the end of the book?
Yes.
Awesome. Well, we will hear more from Lorelai in 3 weeks, and then shortly after for the whole group discussion. You excited to go through this whole book again? We're going to do every chapter again.
Okay.
You're going to continue on with us next book, you think?
Yeah.
Great. All right. Well, we really do appreciate the time you help us here doing this, and we'll see you in 3 weeks.
Bye.
Bye. You can go to sleep now.
Go on. Yeah.
All right, Luke. So this is the part of our show where we do our special shout out to our listeners. And this time we have some really exciting things to tell the people who follow us.
That's definitely true. You may remember at the end of last week's chapter, Bailey Riddle from Hogwarts Radio told you that we have some exciting news for you coming out this episode. So here's that exciting news.
Dun, dun, dun.
We are starting the podcastthat.com family of podcasts Patreon page. So we really hope you would consider going to patreon.com/stayimaginary, keywords, all that, and consider becoming a part of our Imaginary Legion and supporting us monthly to get more bonus content out to you. This will support all of our shows here at the podcastthat.com, not just the podcast that must not be named, but also...
So we have several shows this will support. It'll support the podcast that drinks and knows things, which is our Game of Thrones rewatch show with Luke and Glenn and Ben and Abby. It'll support our show, the podcast that floats down here with myself, Luke, and our brother Benji discussing Stephen King's It, and upcoming and future shows. Now, one of my favorite things that we have with our Patreon account is that we always say stay imaginary. And that's because we believe you, our very respected listeners, are our imaginary legion, supporting us, listening to us, not just this show, but all of the shows. And so you can join our legion by donating monthly. There are lots of different levels. You can be part of the legion for $1 a month with access to our legion only RSS feed and invitation to view legion only live stream recordings. $3 a month gets you shout outs on an episode of each show and access to legion exclusive episodes. Each show is going to put out special, especially the Drinks and Nose show and this show, we will put out special content. And so you will get access to that every month.
Including the beginning of a separate series for patron exclusive feed of the podcast that Must Not Tell Lies, which you had a little bit of a teaser, I think 2 weeks ago, where my friend Alex and I are digging deeper into some large fan theories and magical theory within J.K. Rowling's magical world, and just having a lot of fun. A little bit different from our format here, more big topic stuff. So that's going to be patron exclusive only.
And there are various other levels for more a month. Please check out our website at patreon.com/stayimaginary to see all of the different ways you can support our show. We appreciate everything you do for us, and we can't wait to continue creating wonderful content for all of our listeners out there.
Our Patreon is going live today. So please go over there now and check it out.
Be one of the first to join.
That's right. And you can join our Slack team. That's one of the tiers as well. You get Slack team access. How exciting.
Ooh, and we're really funny there.
We are actually funny there for once.
That's because it's not just us. And it could be you.
And it could be you.
And now is the time of our episode where we like to welcome back our first time reader. Hi there, Riley.
Hey, how's it going?
It's great. How are you?
I'm awesome. I just read some awesome chapters. I'm ready to talk about them. Yeah, one day.
What are your thoughts on that? Let's just start there. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm a sucker for action, so obviously there's a lot. If there's 5 chapters jam-packed into one day, there's a lot going on. And I don't know, I like that there was just a lot of content, a lot of story that was happening, a ton of backstory and exposition, but it was quick, and I don't know, it was just a lot of, I went through it really quickly, so.
I mean, it did go quick at times, right? And even the long chapters went fairly quick.
Yeah, I think it took me longer to read the first chapter than it did 19, which is the long one, right?
Mhm.
And so, like,
Mhm.
I was like, oh man, I kind of, when I read the sections, I break them up into chapters and kind of like see how long each chapter is. Sometimes I take a break. I didn't take a break between like, I think 17 and the end of 20. So
Yeah, it was 18, 17, 9, 20, and then 8.
Yeah.
So it's a couple pretty long chapters. A couple of the shortest chapters in the whole series, right? We
Series.
decided.
It is this. One of them is tied for second, and the other one is like third.
Right. So, I think it's very interesting how this whole section is kind of broken up, like we said, referenced over and over. One calendar day.
Oh, yeah.
Before we jump into like your thoughts on it, Luke, how nice is it? How nice would it be to actually get to read that many chapters all at once? I miss reading books like that.
I know. Trust me.
Aw.
Yeah.
Nostalgia.
Yeah. No, I feel Riley's pain for the It podcast. It's not fun. I feel Abby's pain on the Drinks and Nose Things podcast. It's rough. I get it. I appreciate your sacrifice.
No, I like it. It's okay.
You at least get batches of 5.
Yeah, 5's not bad because I binge anyways, so I wait till the last minute and then read them all.
Probably the best way to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, at least you could kind of do a bunch at once.
Mm-hmm. Well, I like to have them procrastinating's never good, but I like to have the ideas fresh in my mind, and I just like to consume story quickly. I don't like to take breaks. I couldn't read chapter by chapter and take really long breaks. I would forget everything.
Marathon.
I would stop caring. Like, I would be like, oh, what happened last chapter? Oh, yeah. It's the things aren't as fresh for me, I think.
That's reasonable. Reasonable.
So last time we talked to you, we kind of came up with the idea of coming up with your 2 or 3 really big overall takeaways here.
Yeah.
So you want to kick us off? What are the things that stood out to you, especially since this was just sort of a big chunk? So instead of going chapter by chapter, what are your big takeaways from this night, really?
There's a lot of little things that were like very interesting to me. The big takeaways are kind of tough because I know a little bit what kind of happened. So like the big reveals weren't as surprising to me, I guess.
We've been pretty honest with everybody. You've seen the movies,
Yeah.
so you do know the overall plot points.
Right.
Those aren't the real surprise that you're getting. It's more of the book depth that you're experiencing.
Yeah,
for the
I
first
think
time.
the biggest takeaway in the beginning parts of it is the idea that Buckpeak actually got executed. And I think we've mentioned this maybe when the Buckbeak stuff first started, but the way that the wizarding world views like magical creatures and treats them just doesn't seem very like nice. I don't know. That's a bad word to say. Like, it seems like they're pretty rough on it and kind of corrupt in a way that Lucius Malfoy is just able to put his word in and get this animal killed.
The whole committee just automatically makes that happen.
Well, it's almost like the rights of creatures lesser than wizards aren't as important because they've had to be so focused on protecting themselves. That nothing else, no other types of creatures has become an issue.
Right.
It was more important for them to save their own.
That does make sense.
I mean, I don't agree with it. That might be.
And I tried to internalize it not internalize it, but relate to it as best as I can by like thinking of Buckbeak as a dog. Like, how would it be in like the most realistic situation? Like, how would I actually feel about it? And so, like, if I thought about it in the sense that Buckbeak was a dog and a first-year teacher inexperienced brought his dog to school, that maybe isn't a bad breed. Like, I mean, I don't want to get into dogs and breeds and stuff, but, like, maybe isn't even a bad breed of dog or whatever, but ends up hurting his son. Like, sure, I wouldn't be surprised if they got that dog put down, you know? Like,
I'm not surprised by the Malfoy's reaction to this.
But also, it wasn't a very serious injury, and we saw firsthand how he was playing it up. But at the end of the day, that could happen in real life, where a kid plays up something like that, and a parent would react severely and want repercussions, want justice. Mm-hmm. So I don't think it's the worst thing ever. I mean, obviously, it's very sad for the story, but like I kind of understand where at least that's coming from.
Sure, I definitely don't agree with how the story seems to be playing out for it. You know?
yeah.
But it logically makes sense. Like,
And I like that you're taking the perspective of a caring parent.
Right.
I've never thought of it that way before. My bias against the Malfoys has stood in my way.
Mm-hmm. That's what happens when you bring a Slytherin
I was
along.
gonna say, Riley does a good job at parsing out different people's perspectives on that. Which is reasonable.
It's why we keep you around.
That's one of the reason.
Yeah, and then so other than like I have like a lot of little notes on things that I thought were interesting, but the next big takeaway overall in this section for me is just the symbolism with animals is huge in this section.
And you've been picking up on a lot of animal symbolism this whole book, right?
Yeah.
You've been tracking
and
that.
so that I think that the symbolism previously and in the beginning chapters of this section are sort of hints at the animagus thing with the four friends, them all being animagi, whatever.
We struggle with it too.
But
I don't know what it is.
So I kind of picked up on that, smart reader little note there. But I just think it's interesting how she uses so much. Like even some of the chapters had names like the cat, rat, and dog, and like all animals. And then the names of the friends, Wormtail, Padfoot, Mooney, and Prongs. Obviously, that was a big tie-in to their animagi things.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was interesting. Like it was a good little hint that I'm proud that I picked up on throughout the book. Definitely. I don't really have anything else to build on, but
I'm going to go back to the very beginning of this particular section. There's one little moment that happens earlier in this day that I just want to get your take on. What do you feel about Professor Trelawney's prediction?
That was this day?
Mm-hmm.
Holy cow.
Well,
It's
okay.
like it was years ago.
I have two little notes on that before I get to her prediction. We're going through all the exams and everything, and Trelawney's is the last one, right? And of course, Ron and Harry become the last ones waiting in the hall. Okay, whatever.
I said the same thing.
But listen to this. Not even just like, okay, I read into your kind of overcompensating story, like convenient story part for them to be the last ones. I get it, whatever. But what test what line, what any kind of cue where you walk in does Weasley go before Potter? Like, this is obviously not alphabetical order. Like, I don't know what approach she's taking on how she gets these kids in, because obviously there was nothing about who gets there first, goes in first. She was calling names.
Well, and it was Longbottom, like, right before that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, or was there a couple between Longbottom and Weasley? I don't specifically remember.
It wasn't anything
Notable, I don't think.
Because I think even Parkinson was before Longbottom. I think. I could be backwards on that.
But obviously she's not rocking alphabetical order, and for me,
quite subjective.
For me, the teacher credentials just go right out the window if you're not rocking alphabetical order. I mean,
So it was Neville Longbottom, then Pavarti, then Ron.
Okay, so that is alphabetical. So it's everyone except Harry at this point that we heard.
And I think Hermione had already finished.
Well, Hermione quit in the middle of the year.
Right.
yeah.
She finished a couple months ago.
Yeah, I think it was intentionally done to have Harry
Single
at the
Harry out.
Well, yeah.
The rest, I think, could be alphabetical
Maybe.
order.
Okay.
Just making a point of Harry's got to be last.
Sure.
And
Makes
I don't
sense.
even think this is the one time that I don't even think it's because of J.K. Rowling.
Right.
singling
It's the
them
way
out.
Trelawney designed it.
Yes,
That's how I'm-
Trelawney
Okay.
would have done that.
So I definitely didn't see that. So
Yeah,
that makes
and
sense.
maybe I didn't make that clear. That's exactly
No,
what I
yeah.
was saying. Is I think Sybil Trelawney is the one saying singling Harry.
Yeah,
out.
I read that as like, oh, convenient that Ron and Harry are the last two. Like even more story convenient from JK.
Mhm.
But I definitely see that Trelawney could have been. She's kooky enough at least to
and she's
definitely
been
do
singling
that.
him out every single
yeah.
class.
That's true.
Every class. So that's how I've read it.
Sure.
But
And then her crazy prediction. I mean, that was just wild. Like I didn't know whether she was acting like she just didn't do it or she really just like blacked out. And
What do you think?
I think she actually like blacked out and was out of it and didn't believe Harry. Well, yeah, I think so. I don't know. I really don't know.
it's a big
I don't
question.
think she's good enough of a liar to pull that much disbelief off.
Is she a better harp?
Immediately, I get it.
Sorry.
Immediately, though, yeah, I agree. I don't think she could immediately go from like that kind of shock to just instantly being conscious enough or having the wherewithal enough to lie about it. Like,
Right.
regardless of how good of a seer she actually might be, or if she is just a kook, like it, I don't think anybody would have that kind of wherewithal. But that's crazy. Maybe, I mean, so if we look at it as a whole, the servant coming back to his master, this is the first time Pettigrew has been a human in 12 years.
Peter the person. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. As opposed to Peter the rat.
Yes. So, I mean, in a way, Pettigrew really, I mean, I think he was the betrayer. I think he was the bad guy. In a way, she kind of was right tonight, before midnight, that it happened, because after that, then we see when midnight hits because the moon comes up and, well, I don't know.
Well, we know that it's midnight whenever Dumbledore says, "Hey, go back in time, Hermione. You have 3 minutes till midnight."
Yet, I don't think.
That happens all in this chapter? No, it
No,
doesn't.
20.
Sorry, that's 21. Cut.
Where were we at?
So what are your other kind of mini thoughts that you had?
So a lot of it was like just questions throughout the action a little bit. So some of it was like Hermione, the obvious Hermione scheduling is not going to work for her exams, and her just like completely saying, don't even worry about asking how it's going to work, like it will. Like, if I was your friend, I mean, there are a lot more important things going on in this section to where the boys could like obviously just say, we're not going to worry about it, but
Let it go.
yeah,
Let it
but
go.
I really do feel like if I was Hermione's friend, I would have to step in and be like, what are you doing? You know,
Ron's been trying all
I know.
year.
Yeah, but
all
Ron
year.
trying things is not always like.
Give him some credit. He's been trying all year. How is this possible? Talk to your friends. You have issues.
Girl, you got issues.
Yeah, I just think that's crazy. And then, so I guess because we're looking at it as a whole, this note's not that crazy, but when Sirius was originally attacking Harry and Ron and Hermione in the forest, and Crookshanks shows up and helps Sirius, I'm like, what's going on? Like, did I just read that right? I had to go back and read it. Like, is the cat helping it? And then obviously we learn why later, because Sirius befriended it. And then just, I really enjoyed the history about the four friends that, was kind of like broken up in conversation a lot. I wish we could have, as much as I hate like big text about detail and stuff, and I kind of wish I could have, I mean, I got all the information, but I wish I could have just read it all as a paragraph, because I was so interested in that aspect. Like, I was thinking when we were reading, why is there not why isn't Harry Potter about them? Like, to me, that'd be so much
The Marauders.
more interesting. It's so not that I don't think this is interesting, but I really like the adventure aspect in fantasy stories in general. So I would love to see a story where they're just going on adventures every month, like around Hogwarts and however far out they go, and like their dynamic as friends. Like, I just think that would be really interesting to see.
Mm-hmm. Regardless of any spoilers to anything else we learn about them in these books, I think it would be a great animated series to have Marauders at Hogwarts.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that'd be incredible. It's like watching the old cartoon Recess. I mean,
right.
you know, like that style of just, every day at school, here's the shenanigans they get into.
Mm-hmm.
Great characters that you don't have to take any time to develop. They're already there. The people who are going to care know them.
Well, yeah, just
do it.
As like a general thing, I mean, it's kind of off topic a little bit, but I think that when successful series like these do, like, what are they called when
Spin-offs,
like spin-offs or things like that,
prequel type stuff.
Prequel stuff. I think it's almost always going to be more successful to do a prequel than to continue on stories later, because people, like audience members, know at least minute details about these characters and they care about them, but you can easily flesh it out. Like, and I'm not saying like you do one book, it'd be better to do a prequel. I'm saying like for Harry Potter, I know JK is writing more stuff for like the children of Harry Potter, right? She started doing that. Honestly, I would be more interested in seeing prequel stuff with the characters that we didn't get a lot of time with rather than that. Just in my opinion. Maybe it's not popular,
Well,
but
she does have one short story out there
okay.
that's available, I think, online.
I'll have to check it out.
But
Yes.
that she wrote, but it's that's it. And I think that's why that's it, because the Marauders are good little short story things.
Sure.
There's not a giant plot overall. It's just, like you said, a small series of
Comic book
small
style
events.
almost.
But I mean,
It's-
Harry
Right.
Potter's also doing that. I mean, Star Wars is doing it. Game of Thrones is doing it.
But
Lord
I
of the
don't
Rings
think
is
there's,
doing
like,
it.
a big baddie. There's not like
Yeah, but I mean,
already know how it
I'm not
ends.
saying necessarily the Marauders though. I'm saying the prequel style in general. I don't think Harry Potter the series, it may in the distant future, but I don't think they're going to come out with another movie series about the children of Harry Potter. But I mean, potentially they could. I would love any more Harry Potter movies they make. I would love to see them.
What's that book up there? The yellow one? Yeah.
Well, whatever. But I think like the Fantastic Beasts series is a really good example of way early prequel stuff that we get to see now that I think is
I
interesting.
agree that for book series, typically prequels go better just because...
Who doesn't want to learn more about Dumbledore?
Right. You have a lot more that builds up to where we've learned.
Yeah.
But for more of a where sequels do a lot better is one, movies, or two, like sequels or spin-offs, movies or TV shows, where you have these characters that are developed just within this show, and you have these side characters that people love, but fall away from the main plot. You want to
Sure.
see where they end up. So
Okay.
that's like the main strength that sequels and spin-offs can provide,
That makes sense.
which is again different potentially from book series. But
okay.
we've digressed.
Back to it. What's next?
So yeah, we had a lot in the Shrieking Shack, right? I mean,
Yeah.
was there anything that really stood out as odd to you that happened in there, or like, wow, I thought narratively that was really interesting the way that she kind of made this all happen? Because there's a lot going on.
I think the way Lupin presented what he was trying to do was very poor. I think he came in sort of like not combative, but apathetic to like the children. Like he has just learned about Sirius being, not the killer. Right. So that's fresh in his mind. He's been living with that. He saw Pettigrew on the map and he figured it out for himself what was happening. And so I get why he came in and was relieved to see Sirius and pick him up and give him a hug and like talk to him right away. But I really think he should have gone in with getting the kids' trusts in mind first in order to make the whole situation go a lot smoother, to be like a beacon of mediation for what Harry and Hermione and Ron needed to hear, rather than just like hoping, like thinking it's all going to work out. That now that he has it figured out, he knows it's going to be fine, if that makes sense.
So his initial reaction to finding out that one of his best friends was actually innocent, you think he's overreacting to trusting him too quick?
No, I don't think he's...
I'm kind of being silly about the way I said that.
No,
put
I
it on
don't
the
think he's
spot.
overreacting to that. I think it's fine for him to be ecstatic about that, but I think he should have realized that it would have caused conflict potentially, because the kids might not know what's going on, and they didn't, and Harry wanted to kill Sirius, and he came in and shot their wands away and made it seem like he was the bad guy from the kids' perspective. That's what we got, and just because the perspective that we read the story through is through Harry and the kids, that means that that's the way they took it, whether he meant it or not. And I think he should have tried to be more compassionate to that concept.
I wonder though, is he coming in thinking that they're hurting him? Because if he's coming in thinking, I have to stop them from hurting him so there's not worse consequences, then yeah, he might need to come in defensive. But he did turn it around then. So, but I see your point of view, but at that point, it's not about kids. It's about protecting the innocent guy
Sure.
that nobody else knows
Mhm.
about.
I mean, literally, Lupin is the only one that can rationalize through this, because he does know at this point, and he's not, for all of my love of Sirius, he's kind of wigged out right now.
Yeah.
He's in high stress mode. This is not his shining moment necessarily. I mean, he's been through a lot. And Lupin, I think, quickly realizes that, is sympathetic towards him, and realizes, hey, Harry and Hermione could hurt him. I mean, I think I'm with you, but we also know the story. So like that initial, we know this. This is our first time reading it too.
No, you said Harry and Hermione could hurt him, and I said, but not Ron.
Well, he didn't have a wand. He had a broken leg. He was essentially Sirius's prisoner at that point.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
That's what I was getting at. But yeah, I think it is Lupin's job to, one, protect Sirius, and two, then kind of go through.
I think I just got such a strong reaction from when, he shoots the wands out of the
the cliffhanger at the end of chapter 17.
Yeah.
Where it's like, hey, they're best friends, and now we're gonna all be killed.
I think I just got such a strong reaction from when, like, knocking the wands out of the hands, sure, but he should have went in, knocked the wands out, and been like, stop, you don't know the whole story, listen to me, let me explain. And then maybe but he went in, knocked the wands out of their hands, and then helped them up and like patted on them back. It's like, good to see you, old friend. Like,
I got you.
I just think that wasn't the move, but he did end up turning it around. So I'm not saying his whole perspective.
It's just that initial, maybe could have been a little bit
Rub
smoother.
you wrong.
Yeah, like I feel like
dramatic effect.
not that I was upset about the exposition or 10 page, however long was spent on the story. I feel like it could have been done in 2 if they made that decision. But obviously, for story's sakes, I enjoyed it.
What about Snape? What do you think about Snape in this?
Snape surprised me because he was out of whack too. Like this, it seemed like he was about as crazy and focused on one thing as Sirius was in that moment, and
there was no listening to reason.
No, not at all. And even though Snape's been painted as kind of that bad guy, I'm gonna do whatever I'm gonna do kind of character, I don't think he's really has been like that this whole series. But in this moment, he was pretty unreasonable in a way. But again, I think he's taking the heroic teacher standpoint that he's always wanted to be the guy to catch Sirius, like to put it to an end, to be not from selfish reasons, but because I honestly think that he wants to, be, well, selfish in a way that he has a vendetta against Sirius for sure, but I don't necessarily think that he's doing it because he wants to be
he's not necessarily looking for recognition.
Yeah, I think he just wants to be the one to do it. I think he has such a personal vendetta.
It's more of a vindictive reason more than a glory seeking.
Yeah. So Snape definitely surprised me. I honestly forgot that he showed up. So when he came in, I was like, oh wow, Snape's here. Oh, it's crazy that he knows about the map and the cloak now. So we'll see. I mean, I know there's more books, so we'll see how that plays out in the future doings in Hogwarts and stuff. But I don't know. I just think that's interesting that all of these characters are pulled into like one instant, and there's so much backstory about them that's revealed now. I just really like that a lot.
All right. Any other thoughts before we move on to your other sections?
Yeah, I'm mad that they didn't tell us what Animagus James Potter was.
Okay.
And so I think I know, but it's just rough because I've been putting together all this, and this is why the animal symbolism has like been important to me, because I picked up on the nicknames of the Marauders. You know, Padfoot for Lupin Mooney for Lupin because of the moon, Padfoot for Sirius because he turns into a wolf that has dogs.
A big dog, yeah.
Padfoot, Wormtail because it's a rat. It was a wormy tail, and Prongs. I think like there's not many animals that have, I mean, there are a lot of animals that could potentially be used to describe prongs, but I mean I think it's like antlers on a deer or stag or something like that. So I would say that, and I've seen the movies, so I know that that's the Patronus that gets, but I'm not even joking, I've never been told what it actually is, so I'm not certain.
So that's not like blatant information.
No, I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
Know it now,
but I just want to know for sure. You know, like I want to read it in the book.
One more final scene that we hadn't really talked about is the end of this
the fight scene.
The Dementors, right, coming and basically trying to, one, give Harry the Dementor's kiss and Hermione and Sirius Black. I mean, not even just the fighting them part of it. What do you think of how the Dementors are acting here? Like, what do you think of that whole scene?
Well, as far as the Dementors know, there is a mass murderer that they've been looking for at Hogwarts. And people are trying to defend him. You know, Harry tries to use the Patronus charm. None of the Dementors attacked him and attacked Harry until he came to Sirius's side. at the lake.
So do you think they just have like a standing order to, for lack of a better term, shoot on sight?
Oh yeah, are you kidding me? Yeah, and it's not even just shoot on sight when it comes to Sirius. Like they went into the train and attacked Harry. Like they've attacked him on the Quidditch field. Like they're not going to hold back. We know that. They don't seem like they can be reasoned with. They're going to do their thing because that's what they do.
But that's my question. Are they going to do their thing because that's what they do and nothing's going to stop them? Or has there been like a wizard given order for them to do this? Because I don't think there was an order for them to come to the Quidditch match. And they didn't necessarily attack Harry. Just their presence kind of does those things to him.
Right.
This is the first time they've actually attacked him. I think it's interesting that you look at it as they're doing what they're supposed to. And I never took it that way. So are they doing it because it's just what their job? Or are they doing it because they've been told to? Or are they doing
Or are
it
they
because...
reasoning that, hey, they're helping Sirius, so we're automatically shooting on sight, taking these students out for helping him?
That's how I took the helping Sirius thing is how I took it initially.
Okay.
But I hadn't thought about them being. All I know is that they take orders from the ministry, right? Well, essentially, in terms of the search for Sirius.
Okay. I just always read this as they went without orders.
Rogue?
Yeah.
Do you think they can sense Sirius from a distance because they're familiar with him?
Like, I was actually I'm really glad you got to that point because I was thinking along those very same lines of,
because I don't think
they have like a soul fingerprint like that they can sense of him, knowing
I feel
that
like
hey,
they
that's
have
Sirius Black,
to,
because we know
No.
who he is. You think they're just completely blind and they see soul, or they feel soul, and
But
they're
I
going for
don't
it.
think it identifies. I don't believe it's like a...
So if it was Neville and Pansy Parkinson and Pavarti out there, Dementors just would have gone after him. I'm
That's what I
asking you.
believe.
So you think they're just completely off the reservation?
Yep.
I disagree because
I
I
disagree as well.
There were he said that there were a
I
ton.
can't use my evidence.
Well, he said that there were a ton of Dementors there at the lake, right? Like
I
there
know,
was a
but
bunch.
my evidence is spoilery
Yeah,
for this and future books. But
I get it.
no.
But
at this point, I feel like I'm with Riley
because
just on how I look at it, reading this section.
because in previous times there wasn't that big of a concentration of the Dementors in the other area, from what we know. In the Quidditch match, maybe there was.
They said there was a lot.
Okay,
at the Quidditch match,
maybe.
like flooding the field.
But in that same, Sirius said he was there.
That's true.
He said he was at the Quidditch match, but
there.
he was
Oh,
potentially in dog form. So I'm going off the idea that they can't tell in
But
dog form.
they have a familiarity with his
But maybe,
soul fingerprint. I don't know how else to describe
but
it.
maybe, the only way that my theory would work is if Sirius decided to watch it in human form, because I don't think that they have been able to track him in dog form at all. I don't think the familiarity is there.
And he was definitely in dog form.
I wouldn't say that they would have zero familiarity with him being a dog. They'd at least be familiar with it, although they didn't realize it when he escaped.
Sure.
I think you're putting way too much stock in their ability.
I think they're incredibly powerful.
I do too.
Scary powerful.
Powerful, yes. Smart? No. I think they just go for the first thing they're around.
So you think Harry's compartment was the first one open that they came across on the train?
Nobody attacked Harry on the train.
Yeah, that
Nobody
one I
tried to
disagree
get
with.
Harry, like the Dementors gets on the train. He has a bad reaction to them. Think of it as him being allergic. That's the same
Yeah,
thing.
they
that
checked
happened at the
every
Quidditch
compartment.
match.
He's the only one that reacted that badly.
Okay.
Same thing.
Aside from Ginny
he
was affected as well. But
Right. He had the same so-called allergic reaction to them at the Quidditch match.
Okay.
So trying to equate those with this, they are two different events. Here, they actually attacked him personally. There was no reason for them to attack him. There's no reason for them to attack Hermione. I like your idea that...
aside that he's protecting...
I agree with that. But I don't think they went after Sirius because, I know this is serious. I think they saw a fight happening on the ground.
This is the
And went after
first...
the person they could get.
The first disagreement that Melissa and I have had on a first-time reader section. I like it.
I don't disagree that maybe that's why they went after Hermione and Harry, but I don't think they knew it was serious. I don't put that much stock in their
I don't know. I do.
tracking sense.
Yeah, I do too.
I do.
I don't, and I can't
That's
back
we'll get
myself
to it.
up until a book or two.
Join us in about 15 minutes and we can talk about unrestricted section stuff. We'll talk about next book or 2 books from now, 3 books from now.
Book 4.
We'll get there.
Okay.
All right, you got some questions for Riley?
Are you ready for your burning questions?
Heck yeah.
All right, here we go. Chapter 16. Ready?
Yep.
Do you think anyone has ever actually seen anything in the crystal ball during the exam?
Anyone ever? Is that what you're asking?
Or maybe it's a general. Do you think most people or a large percentage of people actually are able to see anything?
No.
Why or why not?
A large percentage of people. No, I don't think so. Because I think divination is one of the toughest forms of magic. And I think it's way more innate than a lot of the other magic used. Like, I don't think you can really learn divination well. I mean, you can, but I think you have to have at least some sort of mindset or
genetic disposition.
Yeah, to succeed in it. And so I don't think the majority of people have. People definitely have, though. I really do think even if none of the kids in this class did, I think
seership is a real thing out there.
100%. And that goes beyond, my opinion on that even goes beyond just this story.
Right.
In terms of a lot of fantasy magics, the art of divination is always regarded as very tough and very prestigious. Maybe not always prestigious, but like it's not an easy one to master or even be able to do at all. So
it definitely seems like it's more of you have to have a propensity for it going into it to be highly successful, not necessarily a learned trait.
Right.
All right. Second question. Did you know before reading these chapters that Lupin was a werewolf?
No. I mean, I've seen the movies, so yeah, but I actively try to take myself out of that mindset, and I didn't notice anything, that were really, like, hinting at it, other than other than the idea that I already knew, so when he was ill, I knew that it was because he was a werewolf, but I wouldn't have known. Like, I don't think I would have picked up on that, because like the werewolf stuff early on with the Snape essay, I kind of brushed that aside. I didn't really think much of it, so even though I knew at the time that Lupin was a werewolf, I didn't even think that Snape was trying to get people, I don't think he knew and he was trying to get people to know about it, is my opinion. Okay. And I think that's the real, like, tip off.
Really thought they've done werewolf work in every year up to this point.
Yeah,
right.
It's been mentioned each book, which we've been making slight jokes at, which has been fun.
Hopefully, we'll be done with that now.
But so as a first time reader, specifically, I don't think I would have known. I don't think I know.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we discussed this, Melissa and I, that neither of us picked up on it until okay, that's a thing.
Yeah,
that's happening right now.
Right, had no idea. All right, question number 3: if you could be an animagus, what would you be?
Oh. Did not think this one through. Probably something that can fly that is powerful. A dragon.
Nice.
Why doesn't everybody try to turn into a dragon? A dire dragon.
You guys know me personally. I've always been a big fan of hardcore
big fan of
dragon guy. Huge dragon guy. But
I feel like that wouldn't be very stealthy.
Oh, who cares? I'm a freaking dragon.
He's a dragon. What stealth do you need? Bring it.
Hello, Ministry. I am an animagus. I am a dragon. You can register me, but I will kill you if you try to take it away from me.
Aww.
I feel like
I have
dragon animagus, that needs to happen.
No quarrels with you. I don't intend on.
Not happened already.
Right. We're my Patronus is a dragon.
And so all right, I know that there's probably a lot that you can't answer about this, but I didn't know that you could learn to become an animagus.
Oh, okay.
And if that's the case, can you learn to be more?
Yes.
Than one animal?
No.
Oh.
Because if you can, so I agree, not agree, so I understand that maybe there's a genetic or wizardly thing that ties you to it, that you just have, becoming an animagus is that maybe everybody potentially has that, but untapping that is real.
So I think we can safely talk about this a little bit without spoiling anything. So it's pretty well regarded as your Patronus, and if you can turn into it, be an animagus, those are the same animals.
Mm-hmm.
And they are deeply tied to your spirit animal, for lack of a better term.
Like your core, who you are.
Right.
So animagus skill set that you learn could only be that one.
Right.
Unless that were to change later in life for some reason, but it would still only be a single animal at a time.
Right.
Not like, oh, I could be a spider, and then I can be a bear.
Well, my
and then I could be
question,
an eagle.
so the reason I brought that up is because, like, let's say if I could choose, I would say a dragon, but maybe you can't choose something that powerful right away. Like, so is it something you have
And
to
I
learn?
don't think you necessarily choose
I
what
know,
it is.
I know. Well, the question was, do I choose?
I know. So
like the wand choosing the wizard. I think
yeah.
it's just
the
a part
animal
of
chooses
you.
Well, if we're going with Juan choosing the wizard, Pottermore says I am an orca for my Patronus.
There you go. That seems like
So if they're the
I'm
same,
going to
if
be
you
a
lived-
polar bear, and that's terrible. So
I'm a gray squirrel, so I'm okay with that.
I know you've got the best one.
no way. Orca's way cooler. I'm a freaking killer whale.
Yeah, but you're stuck in the water. You can't like.
We don't live anywhere near water where you would be okay.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Final
Okay,
thought
fine.
on that little last topic. You could also learn transfiguration techniques to transform yourself into different animals. I
Sure.
think really advanced transfiguration.
Well, if you can turn pots into tortoises, which is nuts.
You can turn your friends into badgers on accident. That happened in book 2.
Mm-hmm.
Also true.
So I think those, but again, it's a different branch of magic to do it. That's my only
Mhm.
point. So there are ways to do it, just not the.
And there's also the
Animagus.
question of consciousness as the animal in terms of transfiguration versus animagus stuff, you know?
That's true. And I would assume that if you were transfigured into the animal, that's not the same
No.
level of consciousness is that you would maintain were you an animagus.
I think I could agree with that. Yeah, I don't know, but I think that could make sense.
Yeah.
All right. Question number 4. Taking the perspective of Sirius Black, but putting yourself in the situation.
Mm-hmm.
If you had been in prison and had the opportunity to speak to the person who landed you there, knowing you were innocent, would you try to kill that person?
For 12 years in Azkaban?
Yes.
Yes.
Because
all of your happy thoughts are taken away from you and you obsess on one thing that keeps you going and keeps you alive. You have one goal, you get out and you have one thing on your mind. There's no way I wouldn't.
okay, good.
I think the only person that could have changed his opinion was Harry, and that's how it happened. Because he was there to protect Harry. He says Harry has the right to decide, and I agree with that. So,
But otherwise, you'd be all for it.
yeah.
Okay. Question 5. Where did Werewolf Lupin go at the end of the last chapter?
I have no idea. They were by the lake fighting. How close is the lake to the woods? You know, I would assume the woods maybe, but no, because they say that werewolves only are interested in people. So potentially he could smell the kids at the school.
Werewolf on the loose.
I think, there's not going to be people in the woods. And if he's relying on, I'm assuming scent or some kind of innate werewolf.
Oh, werewolf at Hogwarts.
Nice. Good
That's
call.
good. Yeah, probably. Maybe the school, I would assume.
Ooh, fun. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
All right. Now we're up to your section superlatives.
Sure.
What was your favorite line?
So my favorite line came pretty early on in the story in chapter 16 on the second page.
Oh wow, that is early. Was that still the same day? Or
Yeah.
It depends.
Well, this was no, it was not.
Earlier
It was
that
not.
week
It was
in
earlier that
exams.
week. Yeah. So this is when they're all talking to Hermione, or they're all talking together about the exam schedule comes out, and Hermione's flustered studying, and Hermione says, have either of you seen my copy of numerology and Grammatica? And Ron says, oh yeah, I borrowed it for a bit of bedtime reading.
Yeah.
And it says, but very quietly. There's no, he said sarcastically, there's no, he joked, to describe that line. But for me, not only is it a great line from Ron because he's such a funny character, because he's such a one-line funny character, but at this point, she has done such a good job of describing the characters to us and developing their relationships and their quirks and how they interact that I knew right when he read it that it was a joke, that he didn't actually have it to pick up and read at bedtime. Like he but I didn't know right away in the sense that I automatically read that as a joke, because I did automatically read it as a joke, but then I thought, like, wait, did he actually do it? And I was like, no, he didn't. Like, there's no way. So I don't know. I just really liked it. It made me think about it for a little while, and just how well the character has been fleshed out. I don't know. I just really enjoyed it.
Last thing. Who is your section MVP?
Oh man, this is tough. So I have
Lots of choices or not enough choices?
Not enough choices. I have a long list that says not Ron. So this was me, this list, let me preface a little bit because it's important. This was me going through the characters that I initially thought should have been for things that they did, and then realizing that, like, throughout the whole thing, they actually were not that great in the section. So for me, I was thinking of when Ron was guiding them after Buckbeak got executed. He was kind of the one pushing things along, and I was like, that's really good. Like, that's really heroic of him. Like, not heroic, but good of him to push his friends along and at least get them out of there and get them safe. And he did a couple other things, but then, like, he broke his leg, he got, kidnapped, and then he got paralyzed, and he wouldn't give Scabbards up. He wouldn't believe anybody about Scabbards. He lived with a man in his bed for like 12 years. Like, he was not the MVP. So, number one, not Ron.
He lived with a man in his bed for 12 years.
Well, number one.
That's awesome.
Number one, not Ron.
I love the way you said that.
Number two, not Lupin, because of our conversation earlier. He definitely turned it around. But like I said, he did not do a good job of starting that interaction. And then he turns into a werewolf. So not Lupin, not great on that one. Then I have maybe Hermione, ? So Hermione, like, asked a lot of good questions when it was coming to the story. She mediated a lot. She delegated and kind of brought things together, which I really liked. But also during the Buckbeak stuff, she was not helpful. And she was, like, not helpful in terms of the fight at all, other than, like, Expelliarmusing Snape in unison. And at the end, she wasn't really helpful at all. Like, she didn't do her normal Hermione kind of lead the way thing this section, I think, a lot, other than the mediation in terms of the conversation. So maybe Hermione, like, maybe... Go ahead.
I'm gonna just try to maybe push your thinking a little bit with Hermione. Feel free to stop me.
Mm-hmm.
You said she didn't do much at the end because she wasn't really pulling off that expecto patronum as well as even Harry was. But remember that Harry had been studying it for 6 months.
No, yeah, I'm not
as far as he had gotten.
So I'm not talking.
I'm saying if that's the thing you're
No.
like hung up on.
I'm not talking about the expecto patronum. I didn't expect her to expecto patronum at all.
All right, then
I'm just talking about the fight scene right before, where the dogs are, attacking each other, and Ron is like, she didn't really come up with a quick solution that I would assume she would normally do. I don't know. And that's a stressful situation. I'm not saying she was wrong in that sense. Not saying she messed up. I'm just saying she didn't do anything extra, like,
heroic,
extra crazy that I thought
out to be like
she's, to be an MVP. I'm not saying she was bad. And I said maybe. She didn't say not. I didn't say not.
Okay, all right.
And then I said maybe Harry, but we can't choose Harry. But, like, he did a lot in a way this section. Like, he definitely did, like, kind of take charge in terms of the fights and deciding when to take a side and deciding when to hold back. Like, obviously the story's about him and his perspective, but
but at this kind of climax type events, I think you're safe to pick him.
Yeah, so I have maybe Harry. I think he did a good job. And then I said, well, hold on. Let's really think about it. And I said, what about Sirius Black? Okay. He, maybe not in this section in the timeline, but we find out that he has gone through hell and back to accomplish this mission, and he's gotten so close, and he's done everything that he can do to not just free his name, but to do the right thing for Harry and James and Lily Potter, because he's such a good friend, and this is what he's devoted himself to. Even after being, like, avoiding going crazy in Azkaban and being able to hold on to those not great thoughts that really drove him to still do good. I think he's a strong candidate for it, because even though I think that his presentation of his character was, in the beginning of their interaction, was a little questionable on how he, was talking to them when he first became a human and attacking them. He was a little nutty. He was going a little crazy, which we kind of got. And I think after a while of actually being able to talk in person to everybody, he calmed down and started acting more logically. So I really think Black has a good, is a good call for MVP.
Good candidate.
Yeah. But I have one more character, and that is the only character that was right the entire time, doing the right thing the entire book, doing, making the right decisions and always on the right side, and that was Crookshanks. Yes! Crookshanks is definitely the MVP because he never did anything wrong. He was legitimately the only character that was on the right side of the story for the whole section in the whole book. I really do think so.
Riley, I don't think I've ever been more proud of you.
And the fact that he was able to connect with Sirius Black and become friends with him and help him.
His only ally.
Yeah, his only ally, and help him and turn on Hermione at the right time, knowing that he would eventually help the situation by stopping Harry from killing Sirius. Like, I just think, like, without Crookshanks, Harry could have killed Sirius in that. He probably would have. That's the only thing that made him stop in that moment. At least, not the only thing, but made him stop long enough to think about why he shouldn't do it. I think
That's brilliant. I love it.
I think it has to be Crookshanks. And I wasn't happy with that decision because I wanted it to be a real character. Well, it is a real character, but
You wanted it to be a human.
yeah, I really do think it is.
No argument.
No comment, but no argument.
No, I actually completely agree with you. For this section, I agree with a lot of your points. I think I would actually give it to Lupin. I was more impressed with how he handled that situation than your initial off put from how
He also could have taken the potion and avoided Peter Pettigrew.
And you sold me on that. Like,
not
and he
getting
turned into a
taken
werewolf.
away. Yeah.
Like, come on, man. You can't forget. That's the thing you've been dealing with since you were, 8 years old? Like, you can't forget.
Yeah.
It's a big deal.
How did this slip your mind? It's every month. You don't forget something that happens every month without fail.
Half the population understands that more than others.
And I saw that coming hardcore, when Snape says you forgot to take your potion today.
Right.
All right. Good pick. I think it's a good pick. I do.
Yeah. It took
Well-reasoned.
a lot of deliberation. I'm sorry that I went through that whole list, but
It was
really,
worth it. I think it was
I was
worth
really
it.
struggling. And that is the exact thought process. Like, I literally
You
laid out.
forgot about how good Snape was this section. Oh, no.
And really, Peter
No.
Pettigrew, come on.
Pettigrew. I mean, talk about a
He
consistent
gets total
character.
points for
So actually, I initially thought about Pettigrew. I'm not even kidding. But when I think of my MVPs, I think in terms of who's doing the most for the side that the reader is on, and the side that the reader is on is Harry, and Peter didn't really do anything for Harry. So that's how I kind of view it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Good call not picking Peter Pettigrew.
Yeah. But I mean, in terms of his character, he
was true to
very
his character,
true to his character.
which is reasonable.
All right. Well, Riley, I think that wraps us up for this section.
All right.
Just a warning, you have to come back in 3 weeks.
That's fine. I think I can do 2 chapters in 3 weeks.
Yep. And then full book.
Yep.
Full group. Fun stuff. So join us then. You'll get Riley a couple times in the next couple weeks.
Man.
Exciting, folks.
You guys have to start paying me soon.
We'll figure something out.
I'm just kidding.
You know what? You can have a percentage of what I make right now.
Can I just have
I'll give you a cut of everything.
Can I just have book 4 for a little while after this one? That's all I need.
right there? Take it
Yeah,
with
cool. All right, sweet. We figured it out.
you. There it is. The debt has been paid.
As long as I don't have to get the books myself. Not that I wouldn't, but I am a struggling college
It's
student.
nice that you
True.
have 5 siblings that each have their own copy.
Yep.
Or multiple sets of the books.
All right.
Anyway, we appreciate you doing this again and look
you
forward to
next time.
finishing the book with you.
Yeah, see you soon, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Ciao. So that wraps up our first part of the 5-chap recap of 16 through 20 of Prisoner of Azkaban. If you are a first-time reader, please leave. We'll see you next week. If you are like us, avid rereaders of this crazy story, buckle up. We're going to the unrestricted section. this was all one day.
One day.
This is all one day. The first half of one day.
We made it all the way through the first day. But we're going to do it again.
The first run through of this calendar
We're
day.
going to run it again. Rewind.
Whoa, roll back. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. It was so long. So like, I know in my job, and I'm sure in your job, and just in everybody's everyday world, you've had those days that felt like they have gone on forever. This day for them literally has.
Yeah.
Forever.
I mean, they have 2 exams that day, and then the execution, and then all of this hullabaloo learning that there are unregistered animagi, your teacher's a werewolf, like, oh, there's a rat living in your bedroom that is literally the person who's responsible for killing your parents. What? Like, there's just so many things that happen in this section.
Yeah, I really feel like the fact that Sirius Black is not a bad guy is not the biggest thing that happens.
Not even close.
No.
Like, yeah, that's a big one. Like, everything in the book leads you to believe, hey, titular character, bad guy.
Right.
Right? No. He's like the best friend.
Yeah.
He is quite literally
He's amazing.
the most important person Harry's never met to Harry's life.
Oh my God.
Like, just crazy. So what kind of other notes do we have other than just rambling of how much happens here?
In one room. Sorry, I have to throw that in. It's how much happens in one room.
Yeah.
They're in the Shrieking Chap for chapters and chapters and chapters.
Yeah.
I felt like we've been talking about that for a month.
I really feel like this section, and basically from like 16 to the end of the book, this, if we did a 7-chap recap,
Right.
Pretty close to one of my favorite portions of any Harry Potter
Same.
book. And this is why I think a lot of people still rate this book as their favorite Harry Potter book.
Because the hits just keep on coming.
It does. It's jam-packed. It's action-packed.
It's funny.
This is the point, from here moving forward,
This is the plot.
Wormtail runs out, fulfilling the prediction.
Dun, dun, dun.
This is where the Harry Potter story starts. This is the turning point in these books from children's stories to young adult stories. Is that fair?
Oh, so this is the book, and I've told the story early on when we first started this podcast.
Yep.
That when I introduce books to people, I always say, I give them my Mrs. Shuey recommendation of read the first 100 pages. Mm-hmm. But when I tell people to read Harry Potter, I say, plow through the first 2 books. The first 2 books are great. I will even say that book 2 is not the terrible book I once thought it was after our read through in the, last year. But book 3, if you get to book 3, like the world just opens up and it's these 7 chapters that does it.
Yeah.
This is where everything just explodes.
This is the turning point. It really is. And it just is like nonstop from here with like the true threat growing from here.
Yes.
And
honestly, it's going to sound so strange coming from me. It stems from Trelawney.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, I don't think without Trelawney's prediction, Wormtail escaping would not have been as significant.
Dramatic.
It just would have been, oh, he escaped. I think we needed that to realize that the servant of Lord Voldemort sets out tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And he
Before
did.
midnight.
Yes. And it was. I think that's, without that, the significance would have been much less.
Even though we know the book 4 opens up with him there with Frank Bryce and all that.
But remember that we didn't know that. I think.
Well, I'm saying, like, looking back on it,
yeah.
I agree that in this section, that amps it up.
But I think that's what makes book 3 so amazing.
As a standalone. Yeah.
Yes. It's knowing that, okay, we're really in for it now. Mm-hmm. Because after book 1, you were like, oh, I can't wait to see what happens in year 2. And after book 2, you're like, oh, okay, I can't wait to see what happens in book 3.
Oh, another year at Hogwarts.
Yay. And
right?
now you're like, book
and
3, oh no, what is going to happen now? I have to, like... This is your good, it's like if you look at a new series, the first season's going to end in like a decent show, season finale, because you never know if you're going to get picked up for season 2. And then the second season's going to end and it's going to be okay. But by the third season, you're well established. That's when you're really going to suck those people in and really give them like the big giant explosion. People are dead and let's see, whatever kind of season finale that leaves them waiting all summer.
Right. Yeah, this is definitely the first time at the end of the book you're like, I don't know. Like this is a little bit worse than where we started the book.
Right.
You know, like,
right. It's the
and
first
that's
time he ends
difference.
up worse.
Yeah, I agree. And it just stands because I mean, this was the first book series that I really read through. Like that was anything like this. And I just love it. Like this one still holds up even on this reread. I think it's just as welcome in my heart as it always has been.
Yep. And I think what you said is really interesting, that it's the first series you've read like this. It's not I have read tons of series, and every single one that I've read to this point that were kids series. It was always neatly tied up and wrapped up, and then you'd start the next book and it would be
Forget about last year. Like
Or,
it's almost not either.
like, it would be there, but they'd rehash the same, like you'd have the same introduction chapter. Here are your 7 main characters. Let's talk about all 7 of them again in chapter 2 every single time. And it would just be like a nice, neat, tied up, problem solution within a 100-page book or whatever. And it happened for 100 books. And it didn't matter which book you picked up because there was very little continuity, but like major arcs happening.
Sure.
And when I finished book 3, I was like, wow, this is bigger.
Yeah.
You can feel the biggerness.
the depth.
That's the better word of it. That makes it a grown-up series that kids can approach.
It makes it a series that grows up with the kids, which I think is even more impressive. At least having been in that legitimate target audience as they were coming out. Like I think, and maybe I'm just hung on that because that's how I experienced it.
I think you are.
But I do think the books grew up with that group of.
I agree with you, but I don't think she designed it for you. I think she just designed it so that Harry would grow up. And it just so happened that your timeline coincided. For me, as an adult reading it for the first time, because I was an adult, young adult, but adult nonetheless, that I could appreciate Harry as the person growing and that the writing really does coincide with his development.
Sure.
As opposed to the development of her target reader.
Okay. And that's probably more fair just from limited perspective of my own reading.
I think a lot of people who are in this fandom are more like you. I don't know of many who are more like me, who started it as an adult, who've been a fan for as long as you have, but I've always been the grown up. So I never looked at it as it's growing up with me. It was, he's growing up and I get to see it. And her writing grows with him, not with me, but with him. And it works for the people growing up with him.
Yeah, I think it works either way you cut
I don't know
it,
if
really.
that was the intention.
I don't know. Like the feel of books 1 and 2 it's different. It's a lot more happy-go-lucky.
But I think that's the difference between The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, too.
Right, which had a different...
A whole different audience.
Because he was writing for his kids, who grew up.
I suppose.
And then maybe that's the frame that I'm kind of pulling from is...
We're going to agree to disagree. We're going to move on.
Yeah.
Because I have something else about the crystal ball prediction.
Let's do it.
But not Trelawney's.
Okay.
Harry's.
Okay.
Harry's completely made up crystal ball prediction was entirely true. Buckbeak did keep his head and he did fly away.
True. Yeah.
Yeah.
All of that happened.
I like that Harry was right. I feel like he should get an A.
In spite of her. You
Or
think she's going to
just-
retroactively change his
No.
grade?
Because she won't know.
Well, she'll know. Oh, no. She won't know that it flew away.
Yeah.
Because that story's not getting out.
No.
Well, it might.
I
don't
mean,
know.
unless because Dumbledore did say to the executioner, don't check, would somebody really let him out and then run him into the forest? Check the
Search
skies.
the skies.
So theoretically,
Yeah.
But he was right.
Yeah, he
I like
was.
that. Did anyone else pick up on the fact that the executioner was an old pal of Lucius Malfoy's?
Oh, yeah. McNair.
As in an old Death Eater pal?
Yeah, definitely.
Of course a Death Eater would have a job as an executioner. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And nobody questions that. I mean,
how is Malfoy as prevalent around the Ministry? I mean,
no.
These people have played the game to stay in society without being put in prison. I'm not surprised.
I guess my biggest concern would be it feels like putting Nazis in charge of American prisons. That's what it feels like to me. Like after World War II, you had some people who are able to, actual Nazis able to stay out of being caught or whatever. And they come to America and I was like, well, what have you done? Well, I had some
I have this experience.
You know what? Prison guard. Good call. You're not going to do that. That's what this feels like to me. Okay, but I'm not going to put you
I have a very
here.
particular set of skills.
True. I like the Lucius Malfoy thing doesn't bother me quite as much because it's not like he's out there killing people.
But we also know that Malfoy specifically has a lot of influence over
This is true.
this committee.
Okay. They're all
So,
dumb.
Yeah.
I hate Death Eaters.
Death Eaters.
Ugh.
Aren't they the worst?
I know. Oh, look at me. You know what? Look at me having some prejudice against Death Eaters.
Hey, yeah, open up your mind a little bit. Come on. It's
Okay.
2018 already.
Let's name all the good Death Eaters. Well, no.
No, we named them all. That was
Yep,
it.
that was all of them. Good job.
Draco. We'll get there.
Is he
We'll talk about
really
that.
a
We'll talk
Death
about that
Eater,
later.
though?
There's a
All
lot.
right, fine. Wait, we're not talking about something in the unrestricted section? I'm so confused.
It's nothing that pertains to this set of
All right, I'll give you. Let's talk about Animagi.
Animaguses.
Animuggles?
Animuggles.
No, not muggles.
Yeah.
Anti-muggles. No,
So
that's not it.
we've had questions. What do you remember some of our questions that we've had?
My biggest concern is over the registry.
Okay.
Because part of me feels like it's discriminatory against possible animaguses. I don't even know. Animagi. Because if you have the skill to do it, why do I need to register to do it? It feels a little, I don't know. And I feel like I need my friends at Aciopolitics.
I agree. This is again one of those, I don't know if I'm qualified for this conversation.
I know.
It's not my realm of expertise.
I feel like I need them because they are much better at articulating social justice issues within the wizarding world. But I feel like this could be a social justice issue because why should I not necessarily limit, but label or put a big yellow star on those people who have this skill? It feels very X-Men, like the first two movies to me with the legislation against mutants.
Okay.
That's what it feels like to me.
Okay.
Just because they can do something different doesn't make them not worthy of being treated like a normal person.
So I agree that they're probably, you
This
could
is just
go
my
through
take.
that theme
Yes.
in that. I haven't really thought about it. I'm looking at it more of a driver's license. Why do I have to show that I can drive a vehicle, and why do I have to be registered on that?
But to me, that fits more with operating.
Sure, but this is still an ability to drive.
But here's the thing. The ability, I think you should have I don't disagree with having a driver's license or an operating license because it can be like, it's a standard for everybody. Everybody has that ability. I guess that's my thinking. I'm okay with the driver's license because that's for everyone. There's no exclusionary or not, pointing out a particular group of people. It's open to everyone. I feel like this is really setting a group aside saying, oh, look at them.
I don't think so.
But I think it could be taken that way
It could
given
be.
the wrong people in power.
Sure.
Therefore, I have no problem with people saying I'm not going to be registered.
The difference I see in this is a learned ability. They choose to learn how to do this. It's not something that they were born as. It's not the metamorph magus that Tonks is.
Right.
That would be different.
'Kay.
Labeling those who are born that way is different than someone who goes through
training.
rigorous training to learn how to do this. This is a skill. This
Then I
isn't
feel
a
like
trait
instead of
or
having a registry,
characteristic.
maybe it's a list of people who've earned this degree.
Maybe that's really all it is.
But I
mean,
feel like by calling it a registry, it puts a negative connotation.
it's always
on it.
connotation.
Yes.
But I mean, there are positive registries too. It's
Sure. Name 3.
no, I'm not a registration expert. No, but and I'm really
All
just
right,
kind of
fine.
devil's advocate a
Right.
little bit because I'm down for regulation. That's me. But
Right. I know. I was like, you
Like-
hate all regulation.
but at the same time, like this is something they went through, spent 3 years to learn how to do for these kids at least.
One would assume it takes everybody else some time, and it's got to be
Some
difficult.
significant effort has to
Right.
go into this. And sure, some people maybe were naturally adept at doing this, but it's different than something that they were born with. That's my main point on that, I guess. I don't feel like it's a discrimination thing per se.
Okay.
But I could be missing a point on there too.
All right. Let's open that up for other people.
Yep.
Excellent.
Let's move on.
Okay. I feel like you have something we would like to call an ode to Snape, a rant, volume 1.
Volume 1. Snape is garbage. He's just a jerk. Bleeps as necessary. I'm not going to go too far off on the deep end on it. I don't feel like Snape's redemption arc with Lily and being in love with, Harry's mom justifies any of the assholery that he goes through, that he puts all of Lupin, Sirius, Harry, Neville, Hermione, everyone. He has a vendetta against everybody, and he is a outright nasty human being to everybody else. All in the name of playing this part? No, get out of here. No, he's garbage, and he is not a good person, and he is not redeemed because he had this love for Harry's mom, and
Which borderlined on obsession.
that's a whole nother, yeah.
But
Get
still,
the hell over it, man. She didn't love you. You messed up. She chose the other guy. Grow up.
that's what this all stems from.
I know. Grow up and stop being so vindictive and petty towards her son because you didn't like him because of this stupid thing that you're not even listening to what really happened.
Right.
Like, get out of here. You're garbage. I don't like Snape, and he's never justified in my book.
I neither agree nor disagree with you because I was one when reading through them that did jump on the Snape and always bandwagon. I did. But I'm looking at it with fresh eyes, especially with your point of view, which I have heard before, only much less censored. And I see your point because he does no good for anyone here. My thinking for those people who are all about Snape, right? I'm all about that Snape, is the timeline between these book 1, book 2, book 3 Snape occurrences, especially book 3. That's where he is his worst.
Mm-hmm.
I would say book 5 is not great either. And book 7, the years between them may have left some room for softening in people's minds.
As the books were released?
Yes. That they may have forgotten just how bad Snape was in these moments here in book 3. Just how bad Snape was during the occlumency lessons in book 5. That it's possible that they were able to sort of lump those things together. And because the book 7 stuff was so fresh, that became...
It's the final note.
Yes.
It's the ends justifying whatever happened before. Oh, he is a good guy. No, he's not. I get, the double agent stuff that he does, valiant. I agree. That is commendable.
But there's a way to do that and still be a person.
Yeah, you didn't have to be such a jerk
Right.
constantly to everyone that wasn't Draco Malfoy or a Slytherin. Like,
right.
it's terrible for Hogwarts in general, I think. I don't know. Commendable for the role that he plays with Voldemort, not redeemed on being a decent human being at all.
Okay.
Grow up.
What's next?
Volume 2 in a couple books
Stay tuned.
of Luke's ode to Snape hate.
Here's what I'm noticing. As we wind down this book, we have less. Here's what I'm noticing. As we wind down this book, we have less spoilery things to discuss. I think that's okay.
I think that's okay.
All right. So I think that wraps up our unrestricted section. It was a short visit, but we'll see you next time. Till then, find us on Twitter. Find us. You just have to find us. I'm not going to tell you where we are. We have an email. You can find that too. And there's a website. That one's called thepodcastthat.com. And I bet if you go there, you can find everything else. I dare you.
Subscribe, rate us on iTunes, leave us comments there, and on YouTube.
Join us next week when we discuss chapter number 21.
Hermione's Secret. Stay imaginary.
Thanks.